Hi, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Miriam Kalmar. I'm the director of the Early Childhood Center at Stephen Wise Free Synagogue. So I'm going to share some Hanukkah stories, and we're going to start off with a puppet show. But first, I wanted to introduce you to my puppets. So the first puppet, hello, this is King Antiochus, or some people say Antiochus. Oh, and he stars in my story along with another puppet named Judah Maccabee. Hello. So these puppets were created by some of my friends at the ECC. And the set for our puppet show was also created by the same friends. So I'm going to show you a puppet show that talks about why we have Hanukkah.
Presenting the Hanukkah Puppet Show.
Many, many years ago, there was a king named Antiochus. He ruled over many lands, including the land of Israel. He wanted everyone to be like him. He wanted them to pray like him, celebrate only holidays he celebrates, and read only the books he liked. He told the Jewish people that they couldn't celebrate Shabbat or read the Torah, and they could not pray in their holy temple. Do you think the Jewish people liked that? No, they did not like being told what to do. The king sent soldiers to make a mess in the temple and to put up statues and smash everything. The Jewish people were afraid, but they still wanted to celebrate Shabbat and learn Torah. So they came up with a plan. When they were reading the Torah and a soldier came by, they would hide the Torah and they would take out their dreidel and say, "Oh, we're just playing a game. We're playing dreidel." So they kept learning Torah and celebrating Shabbat, but they had to do it in secret. There were some brave Jewish people who decided to stand up to the king and his soldiers. They were called the Maccabees. Judah was their leader. Judah went to the king, and they told the king that they would not listen to his orders, and they would still celebrate Shabbat and learn Torah. Then they went to the temple to clean everything up. It was a big mess. In the temple, they had a beautiful menorah that lit the temple so they could see everything. But they didn't use candles in this menorah. They used special oil made from olives to light it. But when they went to the temple, they saw that all the jars of olive oil were smashed and ruined, except for one little jar of oil. But it only had enough oil for one day. Judah said, "Oh, it takes 8 days to get new oil. What can we do?" Well, he decided to light the menorah, and at least they would have light in the temple for one day. So Judah went home and he went to bed. And when he woke up the next morning, he went to the temple and he was shocked. He said, "Oh my goodness, look, the menorah is still burning. It wasn't supposed to burn for more than one day. but it's already day number 2, and it's still burning. What a miracle! Judah was so happy. He spent all day in the temple. Then he went home and he went to bed. And when morning came, he got up, he stretched, and he went to the temple. Oh my goodness! It's a miracle! The menorah is still burning. It's already been 3 days, and it's still burning. What a miracle! Judah was so excited. Judah came back. He went home to bed, and when he came back on day number 4, it was still burning. What a miracle! And then he came back on day number, what comes after 4? Oh, right, 5. And it was still burning. And he came back on day number 6. And it was still burning. Judah came back on day number 7. And it was still burning. Judah said, oh my goodness. We're going to get new olive oil in 1 more day. I wonder if it'll still be burning tomorrow. So he went home and he went to bed, and he was so excited he had a hard time sleeping. But finally he fell asleep. And when he woke up the next morning, he got up and he rushed to the temple. Oh my goodness! Do you know what he found? That's right, it was still burning. That little oil was only supposed to last for 1 day, but instead it lasted for 8 whole days. What a miracle! Judah and all the Jewish people were so happy. They were happy about the miracle. They were happy about having their temple back. So they decided to celebrate and to institute a holiday called Hanukkah. So every year, people all over the world would celebrate for 8 days by lighting menorahs, playing dreidel, and eating foods cooked in oil like latkes and donuts. The end. I hope you liked the puppet show. I really love these puppets that my friends made. If you look closely, you can see they're made out of all different kinds of things. I see some buttons and some metal. I bet any of you who want to make puppets can do so at home. So now I'm going to share a few of my favorite Hanukkah stories. We're going to start with one called Hanukkah Cookies with Sprinkles. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see the pictures. Hanukkah Cookies with Sprinkles. Every morning, I watch by the window as Mom goes to work. She leaves our building and walks past Saul's Market to the bus stop. Before she gets on the bus, she turns, looks up, and waves to me. I wave back. I stay there and see other people hurrying to work. I stay there until Grandma says, "Sarah, it's time to get ready for school." While I look out the window, I see Saul open his store. He loads the tables in front. He finds a few bad fruits and vegetables and puts them in a box. He can't sell them, so he puts them on the side of the store. One day, I see an old man look in the box. He takes out an apple and puts it on his shoulder. The apple rolls down his arm and into his hand. Then he takes a bite. Why did he eat that apple? I asked Grandma. It has lots of bad spots. It has lots of good spots too, Grandma says. That man is probably poor and looking for something to eat. I think about him eating around the bad spots on the apple. He must be very hungry. I think about him when I eat breakfast and when I walk with Grandma to school. At school, we play and learn about letters, numbers, and holidays. At snack, my teacher gives me a cookie and milk. I look at my cookie and think about the man. I wrap my cookie in a napkin and put it in my pocket. At supper, I tell Mom about the man. I show her the cookie. Could you leave it for him? I ask. The next morning, Mom puts the cookie in a bag. She leaves it by the side of Saul's store. Later, I see the man open the bag. He takes out the cookie, spins it on the tip of his finger, and eats it. At school, I tell my friends about him, and we wrap lots of cookies. My teacher says she's proud of us. She says what we're doing is called tzedakah. We're giving to someone who has less than we have. My teacher gives tzedakah too. She gives me a container of juice for the man. That night, I help Mom make him a sandwich. The next morning, he finds the cookies, juice, and sandwich. He looks around. I think he wants to know who has left him such good things. This is the first time I see his face, and I think I've seen him before. I just don't know where. On Friday night, Mom and Grandma light Shabbat candles. Then we go to synagogue. After the service, there's an Oneg Shabbat. It's like a Shabbat party. And guess what? I see him. Mom, Grandma, I whisper. What, Sarah? They ask. I know that man. That's him. The man eats some challah. He drinks some grape juice. We all do. After that, every day when the man comes by Saul's, there is something for him to eat. Then one day, my teacher says Hanukkah's coming. I love Hanukkah. It's a happy holiday. On Hanukkah, my teacher says, we light candles for 8 nights. We remember the fight for freedom many years ago. We remember the fight so Jews could light Shabbat candles and study the Torah. We also remember how a small bit of oil burned and burned. She gives us each some tiles, bottle caps, paint, and glue. We're making menorahs, she says. You can use them at home to light Hanukkah candles. Just before the first night of Hanukkah, I bring my menorah home. It's beautiful, Grandma says. I know it is. Grandma sets it by the window. We'll light the candles and play dreidel when Mom comes home, Grandma says. Now let's make latkes and Hanukkah cookies. Latkes are potato pancakes. Let's make extra, I say. We make a lot of latkes. We bake lots of cookies in the shapes of menorahs and dreidels. I cover them with sprinkles. I love sprinkles. Mom comes home and I show her my new menorah. It's beautiful, Mom says, but what about the one you made last year? She takes it from the cabinet. It's also beautiful. Take it with you when you go to work, I say. Put it by the trash near the fruit store. Don't throw it out, Grandma says. I'm not, I tell her. I'm giving tzedakah. I'm giving it to someone who has less than we have. The next morning, the man takes the menorah out of the bag and looks at it. There are also latkes, cookies with sprinkles, and Hanukkah candles. I see that the man's cheeks are a little wet. I hope those are happy tears. On Friday, Mom and Grandma prepare a special Shabbat and Hanukkah dinner with lots of good things to eat. At synagogue that night, I want to invite the man to our house for dinner. But Sarah, Mom says, we don't know him. He's a stranger. Please, I say. Mom and I speak to the rabbi. He knows the man. His name is Morris Berger, the rabbi tells us. I've known him for a long time. He's here every Friday afternoon to set up the chairs. After Shabbat, he puts away all the books. The rabbi introduces Mom and me to Mr. Berger. Mom asks him, would you like to join us for a homemade Shabbat and Hanukkah dinner? Please, I say. Mr. Berger smiles. He comes home with us. He talks a lot during dinner. He lives nearby in a small apartment. He once worked in a circus. He shows me some tricks the clowns had taught him. He jiggles some small pieces of challah. Then one by one, he catches each piece of challah in his mouth and eats it. I wish I could juggle. Mom brings out dessert, a plate full of Hanukkah cookies, all covered with sprinkles. Now Mr. Berger knows who has been leaving cookies, sandwiches, and milk for him. He knows who left him the menorah and candles. At first, Mr. Berger looks down. I think he's a little embarrassed. Then he looks at me and says in a real quiet voice, thank you. Mr. Berger, I say, I hope you'll visit again. I'd like that, he says, and please call me Morris. Mom tells him to have another cookie. I will, he says, but first I'll show you some magic. Morris reaches behind my ear and takes out a Hanukkah cookie with sprinkles. Now watch this. I'll make it disappear. He takes one big bite and the cookie is gone. That's okay, I say. We have lots more. We have lots to share. I also have things to share, Morris says. I can teach you some easy magic tricks. I can tell you funny circus stories. Can you teach me to juggle? Morris laughs. I can try, he says, but juggling takes a lot of practice. Sarah will need lots of juggling lessons, Mom says. Morris smiles. He knows that lots of lessons mean lots more Shabbat dinners with us. I smile too. Soon I'll juggle challah at school and surprise my friends. The end. I really like that Hanukkah story because Sarah is helping someone. And Morris is helping Sarah by teaching her things. It's a really sweet story. I have another couple of stories to share with you before it's time to light the menorah. The first one is called Nona's Hanukkah Surprise. And I'm going to show you the pictures again. Do we have to go? Oh, whoops. Yeah. Do we have to go? Asked Rachel, trying to keep her voice from wobbling. Mom looks surprised. You love visiting Daddy's family, she said. But we'll miss Hanukkah, said Rachel. Nona and the cousins celebrate Christmas. Don't worry, honey, said Daddy. The rest of my family does celebrate Christmas, but we'll bring Hanukkah along too. You'll see. It will be fun for us to share our holiday celebrations. Look, said Mom. She opened a small suitcase. It was filled with Hanukkah decorations, dreidels, chocolate Hanukkah gelt, and enough candles for all 8 nights of Hanukkah. There was also a pile of gifts on the bed, both for Rachel and for her cousins. Rachel felt a bit better, but something was missing. There's no Hanukkah menorah, she pointed out. How will we light the Hanukkah candles? Here, Rach, Daddy said, handing her a box. An early Hanukkah present for you. Open it. Inside was the best menorah Rachel had ever seen. Each of its branches was shaped like a person. And not just any person. This menorah had 9 proud Maccabees, each holding a candle, including one for the Shamash. Rachel loved the story of the Maccabees, the brave Jewish fighters who defeated King Antiochus. She did think it was unfair, though, that the Maccabees were all boys. Rachel was sure that if she'd lived in the days of Antiochus, she would have been a Maccabee too. That was why this particular menorah was the very best. All 9 Maccabees were girls. Rachel gave Daddy a big hug. Okay, she said with a smile. We'll bring Hanukkah with us to Nona and the cousins. A week later, Rachel's family took a taxi to the airport. Mom was in charge of the Hanukkah suitcase, but Rachel was in charge of the Maccabee menorah, which was safe in her very own backpack. On the plane, Rachel carefully tucked the menorah under the seat in front of her. Then she buckled her seatbelt and waited for takeoff. The next thing Rachel knew, Daddy was shaking her shoulder. Wake up, Rach, we're landing. Everyone stood up and shuffled into the aisle. Mom was already opening the overhead bin to take out the Hanukkah suitcase. Sleepy Rachel lurched to her feet and followed her family to the exit. In the airport, Nona and the cousins were waiting. There were lots of hugs and even more kisses. Nona gave Rachel the biggest hug of all. Rachel took a deep breath, smelling Nona's perfume. Nona always wore lots, so everyone could enjoy it. She even saved her perfume bottles because she said they were too beautiful to throw away. I'm so glad you're here, Bella, said Nona in her heavy accent. Me too, Nona, said Rachel, and she meant it. As soon as Rachel stepped inside Nona's house, she caught the scent of evergreens and a whiff of Nona's famous panettone. Nona took Rachel straight to the kitchen and cut her a thick slice of the sweet, fruit-filled bread. I'm making all my special foods for Christmas, Nona said proudly. Then she winked. And we're going to have Hanukkah too. Don't you worry, you brought everything we need, yes? Rachel nodded. Mom has decorations and lots of other stuff. And She stopped. She had been about to say, I have the menorah. But she didn't have the menorah. It was still on the plane. How could she have forgotten it? A giant lump grew in Rachel's throat. What's wrong, Bella? Asked Nona. Rachel ran to her parents. I left the Maccabee menorah on the plane, she cried. Oh, sweetie, said Mom. It's okay. We'll call the airport in the morning. But tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, sobbed Rachel. We have to light the candles. We'll still light candles, said Daddy. We just won't get to use your Maccabee menorah tonight. But we'll put up the decorations, play dreidel, and eat latkes like we always do. Don't worry, honey. It will be okay. Mom opened her suitcase. The cousins swarmed around, reaching for decorations and spinning the dreidels on the kitchen table. But not Rachel. Her beautiful menorah was stuck on the plane, and it was all her fault. Rachel rested her head on the kitchen table. She wished she could just go back home. Then she smelled perfume and heard a whisper in her ear. Teach me about the menorah, Bella, said Nona. Then I'm going to make you feel better. In a quiet voice, without even lifting her head, Rachel explained about the menorah. She told Nona how it had 8 candle holders for the 8 nights of Hanukkah and 1 extra for the shamash, the worker candle that lights the rest. And how on the first night of Hanukkah, Jews light 1 candle plus the shamash, with another candle added each night. And on the last night, all 8 were lit. Okay, said Nona. Now I know, so now I'll fix. But first, I need my super duper glue. Nona took the glue from a drawer. Then she slipped 2 Hanukkah candles out of Mom's suitcase and marched out of the room. A few minutes later, Nona was back, holding a beautiful, sparkling menorah. 9 glimmering crystal perfume bottles stood on a silver tray, all stuck in place with Nona's super duper glue. The tallest bottle held the shamash, and another held the first candle of Hanukkah. A smile spread over Rachel's face. It wasn't her girl Maccabee menorah, but it was a very special menorah all the same. Rachel ran over and gave Nona an enormous hug. Thank you, Nona, said Rachel, not letting go. When it got dark, everyone gathered around the glittering menorah. Mom sang the blessing, and Dad lit the first Hanukkah candle. Afterward, as Rachel munched on Nona's lasagna and Mom's potato latkes, she decided that bringing Hanukkah to Nona and the cousins was pretty special. Maybe next time she'd bring Purim. The end. I hope you liked that book too. But I'm looking at the clock and I see that it is time for us to light the menorah. So I'm going to turn my camera around so you don't see me, but instead you see a menorah that my friends made a while ago at the ECC. Some people call it the Hanukkah. So I'm going to light the shamash and then sing the blessings. If you know them, you could sing along with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim hahem b'zman hazeh. Now you just met my new kitten who was very curious about the menorah, so he had to come take a look. But I moved him away because it's not safe to be close to the menorah while it's burning. And tonight is the 5th night of Hanukkah. So we have 5 candles and the shamash. Happy Hanukkah.